What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the Manadorks channel. I'm Nick.
And I'm Mike.
And this is Thought Scour. Thought Scour is a free-form, open-ended discussion where we talk about anything and everything magic. And Mike, what are we talking about today?
Today we figured we'd do a deep dive into keywords. Keywords are words that pop up on magic cards just by themselves, abilities that you know what they do. Some examples being like Death Touch, Cascade, Haste, things like that. We'll go through all the ones we can think of, all the ones that are listed on the MTG Wiki that we can find, and eventually we'll start to pare them down, see what we think could be the most powerful keywords.
Cool.
Let's get started.
Yeah, should we just read through them and
to start, let's just read through, talk about any initial thoughts that you have on them, and then we'll start to dive a little deeper.
Okay.
So these are evergreen keywords, meaning that they can pop up in any set. They're not set specific, and they can be on any card. So those are Death Touch, Defender, First Strike, Double Strike, Flash, Flying, Haste, Hexproof, Indestructible, Intimidate, Landwalk, Lifelink, Protection, Reach, Shroud, Trample, and Vigilance. That's like what, 17,
That's
18?
a lot.
That's a ton right there. So just on those evergreen keywords, any thoughts?
Thoughts as to which are the most powerful?
I guess that's inevitably where we're heading. So
Okay.
what do you think?
Death Touch, very powerful.
Explain why.
Because it's a deterrent more than it is an offensive thing. You know what I mean? If you have a 2020 creature without Trample, and I have a 1/1 Death Touch, you're not going to swing at me because you're not going to get through.
Exactly. So,
And it's going to die.
Yeah, right.
So it's a very defensive keyword.
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, it can be offensive, but oftentimes I find myself using it defensively.
Which is why a lot of the time you see creatures like 1/1 creatures with Death Touch.
Right.
Or little creatures with Death Touch rather than a big like 8/8 Death Touch. Because at that point,
it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Okay, so that's Death Touch. Anything else pop out to you?
I don't know. First Strike, Double Strike.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd say Double Strike before First Strike.
It's more powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, well.
Because you get First Strike and then again.
And Double Strike. You still get to deal First Strike damage.
Right.
And then you get to hit again during normal damage. So obviously that's just better than First Strike.
Pair that with Trample or something.
Yeah, exactly. And Trample is another super powerful keyword. It's very native to green, which makes a lot of sense. Just big creatures dealing a ton of damage. You want them to be able to get past that 1/1 Death Touch creature, so that you can still get in and deal damage. Even if your creature might die, Trample really gets you through there and helps you win.
Right, because then otherwise you're not going to swing.
Right.
In that case.
Yeah.
What else you got?
I'd also say Flash.
Flash is really cool.
Yeah, and it's so sneaky.
Yeah.
Like your opponents have no idea you have something with Flash, and it could come out at any time.
Because I don't see it too often.
Right.
It's not a very heavily played keyword.
Well, yeah.
It is a little OP.
It is, and that's why the card Vidalcan Orrery is so good. A 4-drop artifact that says you can cast spells as though they had Flash. So like anything can be dropped at instant speed with that.
And that's nuts.
That is nuts, yeah.
That card, I'm surprised it's not banned.
I have such a weird feeling on banning cards. That's a whole other topic.
See, I don't understand what they're banning for, honestly, what they're looking for, because...
In terms of what they ban?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's all these OP cards, like, I don't want to say it too loudly because I love it, but Omniscience, like, that's a nasty card.
It is.
It is hard to get to it, which is kind of working in its favor for not banning it, but like...
Yeah. No, I see that.
What is it? I can't say it.
Which one?
Vidalcan
Orrery?
Vidalcan, not Valdalcan.
No.
What does that cost? Mana cost?
4.
4.
Yeah.
To play anything at instant speed.
Right. Now, I will say, if you drop it on turn 4, you have nothing that you're able to cast in that next turn. Also, these being permanents are relatively easy to remove. So that's why people are able to play these cards, because you can't remove them.
Yeah.
You know, so banning, I guess, is more for the sake of the entire identity of the game rather than oppression within a specific game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it also seems like, especially in Standard, the community has a lot to do with banning.
Yes.
So like a card gets spoiled or something, and they say, "Oh my God, that's going to be way overpowered and overplayed." And
Well, I think in the past 3 years, maybe, they've banned more cards in Standard than they ever have in Magic's 20-year history.
yeah,
So it's just like cards are getting a lot more powerful. How about next week we have a full episode on cards that should be banned
Cards
or
that should be
why
banned.
cards are banned. We
Yeah.
can talk a lot more about banning, but I think we need to bring it back to keywords.
yeah, you're right.
So those were evergreen keywords, and we can talk a lot about those later. But I want to get into some keywords that are more specific to sets, I guess.
Okay.
These are, I guess, the wiki calls these mechanics, since they're specific to set, not just keyword, which is a blanket statement, but there's a ton of them, so I'm only going to read off the ones that I find most notable, those being affinity for artifacts, things like that, Annihilator, let's see, Bestow is on here, Buyback, Cascade, Changeling is an ability that
That's
I didn't
cool.
even think of, yeah. Convoke, Cycling, Delve, Dredge, Epic.
Epic.
We'll talk about that. Don't
Yeah.
forget that. Extort, Fear, Flashback. I'm only on F right now. Horsemanship, which doesn't matter anymore. Infect, which is big in Commander. What else is there? Madness, Miracle, Morph, Kicker.
Split second.
Split second, Overload, Persist, Phasing, Populate, Proliferate, Provoke, like all these different words that pop up all over the place. They're not
They're not keywords.
they're not keywords, they're mechanics. And
Yeah.
so I guess we could
But see, like, I would consider something like Annihilator a keyword.
they also wrote scry for a mechanic. I would say
Okay.
that's more of a keyword at this point.
A keyword.
Yeah, you can find scry in any set.
Yeah. So maybe it's not how they're classified; it's how they operate.
Oh, interesting.
So like a scry is something that you do. It's a trigger.
Yeah, okay.
Trample is something that
Is like static. It stays on the creature and it's
yeah, your creature has trample, but like if your creature has scry 2 when it attacks,
Yeah.
that's
I see what you're saying.
it's a
I
mechanic
do.
because it's something that happens when you do something else.
Which I guess is kind of like all of these.
Yeah. Like Cascade is you play the creature and then you do this thing.
Yeah, it's on the cast trigger of it that
But then it
happens.
doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
So that
Yeah.
wouldn't seem like a keyword to me.
Okay. I like that you said that now.
But like Death Touch stays on the creature; it always has Death Touch.
Okay. So should we not even worry about these mechanics right now?
I kind of want to, just because they're pretty nasty.
Yeah, of course. Well,
like-
from the ones I said, did anything pop out to you? Anything that was...
Annihilator.
Yep. Okay.
I love Annihilator.
Yeah. And where do you see Annihilator mostly?
Eldrazi's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eldrazi have Annihilator, and that's in their nature. They just annihilate things that are in front of them.
It's nasty.
What I love from Annihilator is that you get the permanents that are sacrificed, right? On It That Betrays is what
yeah,
I'm getting
yep,
at.
yep,
It
yep.
That Betrays is it 11 or 12 to cast?
I think it's only 8.
Really? It's a huge Eldrazi.
I gotta look it up.
Okay, yeah, look it up. But it has Annihilator on it, and then when your opponent sacrifices those permanents, if they're non-token creatures, you get those permanents. So not only are you forcing your opponents to sacrifice your things, you're also gaining those things
Yeah.
on that specific creature.
It's 12.
It costs 12 to cast.
Yeah.
Makes sense because you get potentially 2 permanents off
Right.
of it. So that does make sense. Split Second jumped out to me in here
Yeah.
based on how it's kind of similar to Flash in that it's a little sneaky. With Split Second, it's in your hand and you cast it, so it's not on the battlefield and people don't know about
But
it.
it's more used for instants.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be on an instant. It wouldn't be on a creature, right? With
Right.
Flash. So, because like if a counterspell had Split Second, then you can cast it, but then it can't be responded.
Right.
The stack is over. Like whatever's there happens.
Well, Split Second says as long as a spell with Split Second is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate non-mana abilities. Triggered abilities, as well as certain special actions that don't use the stack, can be played.
Right. So anything that's on the stack, when Split Second is played, the stack resolves as it is stacked.
I think it goes, it trumps all those things and happens before the resolution of them.
Before the stack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you have an Omniscience on the battlefield,
yeah.
That's an enchantment that you have. And I cast a Croson Grip, which is destroy target artifact or enchantment with Split Second. You can't then respond and cast something.
I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Now let me then say, if you've already cast something and that's on the stack, if I go to cast Split Second and remove your Omniscience, then in response to that, you are not able to cast something else, even an instant or something with Flash for free.
Okay.
Because that just cuts right through the stack and it says
happens.
no way.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But what I liked is that it said you can do mana abilities or other abilities that don't use the stack.
Right.
So it said unmorphing a creature doesn't use the stack and can happen at instant speed.
Cool.
Which is cool. I am not going to be able to think of what the creature is, but when it's turned face up, it counters a spell. So that would be the only way to get around that Croson Grip destroying. Right. You'd have to have a creature that can unmorph because that doesn't use the stack.
Yeah. And I think in the next couple of weeks, Split Second's going to make a little bit of a comeback with the new set, Time Spiral.
Yeah, I agree with you. People are going to start using it more.
Right.
Time Spiral Remastered is only reprinted cards.
Yeah.
So we won't see anything new with Split Second, but we'll get access to more cards.
Right.
You know, because right now Croson Grip is like $3 or $4. It might go down.
Yeah.
I don't even think that's in the set though. Actually, it is. And Sudden Spoilings, which has Split Second, makes all your opponent's creatures 0/2.
Oh, wow.
Which is so cool. Like, I'm so excited to get that card in the Time Spiral pack.
Yeah.
Because I've never played it before. So that's Split Second, which I think should be up there when we try to figure out what the most powerful keywords are.
Yeah.
So let's keep that one in mind. Anything else from these mechanics that jumped out at you?
Did we talk about Cascade?
A little bit.
Cascade's pretty cool.
Yeah, Cascade is such a gamble, though, because you can totally whiff. I've cast a spell with Cascade and then flipped over a Llanowar Elves. You know, and you're like, great, I just spent my Cascade on a 1-drop.
Right.
You know, so I wouldn't necessarily... It's got a high ceiling and a low floor? Is that what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Or the other way?
But then there's cards like Apex Devastator where you can do it 4 times in a row.
Cascade.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's what a 10-drop? Something like that.
Something like
10
that.
Or
10 or 12. Right?
Yeah, right. So you would get a ton of permanence off of that. Even if 1 or 2 is a Llanowar Elves or Elvish Mystic, that's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
Because you have 2 more Cascades.
Put that in a Blink deck.
What, Cascade?
Apex Devastator.
No, because it's a cast trigger. Cascade is a cast.
Oh, okay. You're right.
So that would be way too OP if it was when it enters the battlefield. That would make the top of our list.
Yeah.
Okay. Cascade was on here. I also think Miracle is very powerful.
Yeah.
Because Miracle is where you can cast a spell for a cheaper cost if it's the first one you've drawn that turn.
Right.
So with all the top deck manipulation you're able to do in Commander, with Sensei's Divining Top and with Scrying, you're just able to know what's on top of your library or what's coming up.
Right.
So you can stack it in a way that you draw that Miracle card. Now I can't think of anything. Thunderous Wrath is a Miracle card. It usually costs 4 and 2 red for an instant that deals 5 damage to a creature or player, but its Miracle cost is 1 red. So you can draw that and be like, oh yes, and you can cast it.
And you only have a 7 out of 99 chance that you won't be able to cast it for its Miracle cast.
Not necessarily, because I can draw 4 cards in a turn.
Okay, that's true.
Because it has to be the first one each turn. It's not just whenever you draw this card you can cast it. It has to be the first one that you've drawn that turn. So I have gotten kind of screwed over by that in that it's like the second card you draw. And you're like, I wish I could reorder that. Also, back to that Thunderous Wrath. I've drawn a Thunderous Wrath on turn 1. And you can't cast it because you have to cast it as you draw it. So on turn 1, I haven't played a land yet. So I draw the Thunderous Wrath, and I'm like, okay, that's just a wasted card in my hand.
Yeah.
Even though if it was turn 2, I'd be able to deal 5 to your face, but
Yeah.
I can't on turn 1.
Wow.
So Miracle, like Cascade, kind of has that really great potential, but also that potential for it to fail.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I want to put Miracle in our potential final list of most powerful keywords. It is powerful, but I think there's other things that kind of take the cake.
All right.
Any other
Not that
mechanics?
I can remember.
Infect.
Infect,
I think
yeah.
that's got to be up there.
Yeah.
Just because Commander is 40 life, 21 Commander damage, or 10 Infect damage.
I don't think it's fun to be killed by Infect.
No way. I've never been killed by Infect.
Really?
Have you?
I feel like I have.
It wasn't from me.
Okay.
I've never played Infect.
Okay. I think I've come close to killing people with Infect.
Really?
Yeah.
It's kind of rude.
It is. It's like a slap in the... It's worse than killing someone with Commander damage.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm thinking of a card, Tainted Strike, is 1 and a black, and it gives a creature +1/+0 and Infect at instant speed. So you have a creature that's like 9 power, and I swing at you with it, and you're like, all right, whatever, I'll take the 9. In response, let me Tainted Strike and hit you for
And you
10
win the
Infect,
game.
and that's a win.
Ridiculous.
So like, it's ridiculous because it's so powerful.
Right.
So I think Infect deserves to be up there.
Definitely.
Cool. So let's keep that in mind. Not really too much else on here that's fantastic. I will say like Flashback is really good.
Flashback is cool.
Because it's like you get 2 copies of that spell when you draw it, basically.
Yeah.
You know, you draw into the Think Twice, which you pay 1 in a blue to draw a card, and then it has Flashback for 2 in a blue. So you can technically pay, what would that be? 3 and 2 would be 5. You could pay 1 in the blue to draw your first card, and then cast it again from your graveyard for 3 to draw your next card. So it's kind of like you've drawn 2 copies of that spell almost.
Right.
Because you just are able to cast it twice.
So then you wanted to talk about 2 Epic.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
There's only 5 cards with Epic.
And I've only played 1.
Yeah, the...
Enduring Ideal.
Okay, tell them about it. I'm going to look up the Epic cards.
Okay. I don't remember what the top part of it says.
Well, you
Oh,
can-
yeah. So you can search your library. At the beginning of your upkeep, you search your library for an enchantment, and you put it onto the battlefield, and you can't cast spells for the rest of the game.
Right, so let me read what Epic actually says. For the rest of the game, you can't play spells. At the beginning of each of your upkeeps, copy this spell except for its Epic ability.
Right. Okay. So the Epic or the main ability of the card was to search for an enchantment.
Right,
And
and
put it
then
on the
that's on a
battlefield.
sorcery. We're talking about the card Enduring Ideal, which is 5 and 2 white for a sorcery that does that.
Right.
So you still get to search on the resolution of that spell, and then at each of your upkeeps you get to search again.
Right.
There's other cards. There's one in green that puts a 1/1 snake into play for each card in your hand, also with Epic. There's the blue one, which searches target opponent's library for an artifact, creature, enchantment, or land. Then you put that into play. Then you
Cool.
shuffle. So that's really cool. It costs 10, though.
Wow.
The black one says search target player's library for X cards, where X is the number of cards in your hand, then remove them from the game. So that's pretty cool. You could hopefully mill someone out at that point. You want to, because you can't cast any more spells, so you're really relying on this card.
Right.
Or this mechanic. And then the red one says remove cards from the top of your library from the game until you remove a non-land card. Then that spell deals damage to target creature or player equal to that card's converted mana cost. So leans into the burn aspect of it.
Yeah.
Do you think Epic deserves to be in our list of most powerful mechanics?
I think it has a little bit of potential.
Mm-hmm.
I think where it lacks is that there's only 5 of them.
Yep.
And they're very specific.
Yeah, they are. I don't think it deserves to be up there.
Okay. Yeah, I think if it was more of a thing, maybe.
Yeah, I think...
Well, it was only printed on 5 cards in one set.
Right.
So, like, for that reason alone, no way.
Yeah,
But it is a really cool ability.
it is. I think it's too restricting, though,
It is restricting.
because you can't do anything else in the game.
But it can be really good for you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I play it in
Uh-huh.
Tuvasa, enchantments, and I always use it at the worst time. Because I either use it too soon or too late.
Yeah.
I've only played it 2 or 3 times ever.
Right.
But we played a game last week or something where I played it on turn
It was like
7
turn
or
6.
8.
Yeah, something like that.
And it was really cool. I was doing a lot of stuff, and I thought I was going to win, and then you kind of just... I think you just got rid of Tuvasa.
I removed your commander.
And then I couldn't play a creature because she went back to the command zone.
Right. Yeah, so that's why they're restricting, because in the form of commander, where you rely on your commander for most of your game, any removal kind of is the best way to combat someone's epic spell. Right. Because now they can't play anything, so they just have to hope that the epic kind of makes up for what was removed from their board.
Right.
And there's no turning back. Yeah. After you cast that spell, it's like you're stuck in this one lane. So I think it's too restricting to be considered.
I think the reason I lost was because I searched for an aqueous form so that I could swing at you with a bunch, and I got you down a ton.
Yeah.
And then what I should have done is search for like something to give it hexproof or something to protect it so that I would get another turn to pump it up and hit you for a lot. But
yeah. Okay. You said hexproof. Yeah. I'd like to go back up to our keywords.
Let's do it.
Okay. It doesn't seem like, other than infect, we found anything in those mechanic words that we really feel should be considered. Do you agree?
Annihilator.
Annihilator. Okay, we'll keep that up there. We'll consider Annihilator. But looking at this list, other than something like Flashback or Buyback, where you can pay a little more to have the spell returned to your hand, I think the keywords are more powerful than these mechanics.
Yeah.
So let's go up and let's see what we have up here. Let me read through them again.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of them, but let me read through. Think of the ones that you now think should be in our list. Okay?
Okay.
All right, here we go. Death Touch, Defender, First Strike, Double Strike, Flash, Flying, Haste, Hexproof, Indestructible, Intimidate, Landwalk, Lifelink, Protection, Reach, Shroud, Trample, and Vigilance. Pick 5.
Right now.
Yeah, just pick 5 from there. I can.
Indestructible, Death Touch, Flash, Flying, a 5th one.
You got to pick one.
I don't remember.
You want to pick like Hexproof or
Hexproof?
Okay, great. That's what I figured. Okay, so Nick's were Indestructible, Death Touch, Flash, Flying, and Hexproof.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to say I'll agree with you on the Indestructible and Death Touch.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm writing these down for everyone that's watching and wondering why he's texting during a show.
So rude.
I want to agree with you on Flash, but I think for argument's sake, I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'm going to replace it with...
I think I was under pressure and I didn't have a list in front of me.
Sure. I'm going to replace it with Vigilance. We could talk about that later.
Okay.
I'm going to... I gotta look at them again. I'll pick Double Strike. I got one more that I can use.
Trample?
Yeah, it might have to be Trample.
Okay.
It's not going to be. It's going to be Protection.
Protection?
Yeah. Okay, so here's where our lists stand. Nick said Indestructible, Death Touch, Flash, Flying, and Hexproof. Anything you want to change since I didn't really give you a lot of time?
I would extend the list and add Trample, probably.
Do you want to take anything off to add Trample? I'm only giving you 5 because we're going to have to parse it down from there.
Probably Flash.
Yeah? Okay. Bye, Flash. You had a good run.
Yeah.
Nick is replacing it with Trample. So you have Indestructible, Death Touch, Trample, Flying, and Hexproof.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I have Indestructible, Death Touch, Vigilance, Double Strike, and Protection.
Okay.
So if we're looking for, let's say we want to come up with a top 5 list.
Yeah.
Top 5 most powerful. Since we agree on Death Touch and Indestructible, I think those should automatically be in.
Okay.
Now you need to make a case for Trample, Flying, and Hexproof, while I need to make a case for Vigilance, Double Strike, and Protection.
Okay. I'm curious to hear what you have to say about Protection.
Protection? Let's go for it.
Okay.
Protection, I'm thinking about the card Emerge Unscathed, which was one of our common goods. It's 1 white for an instant that says target creature you control gets protection from the color of your choice until end of turn, and it has Rebound. So you can cast it again for free at your upkeep. Rebound isn't important here. I just want you to have that card in your mind because if I'm playing my Kaikar Wind's Fury deck, Kaikar is a 3/3 bird with flying, and when you cast it on a creature, you get a spirit into play. That's not important. I'm playing Kaikar, and I swing at you for 3 in the air, and you decide to lightning bolt my Kaikar. In response, I'm going to emerge unscathed, give it protection from red, and I can still get through and deal 3 damage to you. Great.
Okay.
Now, next turn, I come in, and you've played, let's see, you're in red, so you've played something. The first creature I thought of was Mogus, God of Slaughter, which is a god from Theros. Big creature, but it doesn't have flying. Let me pick a creature with flying. Let's just say, now I can't think of anything. Shieldred.
Okay.
Shieldred is like a 6/6 with flying. No, Skithrix, that's what I'm thinking. Sorry, everyone. Skithrix is a big flying creature with infect. So when I now try to swing with Kaikar, I'm going to give it protection from black, which Skithrix is, so you can't even block it.
Okay.
You can't touch it at all with anything black. Any removal spells, anything whatsoever, any activated abilities can't touch my creature. So
Wow.
it gives it entirely protection from a color, which I just think is really oppressive. If someone's playing a monocolored deck, you're playing mono blue, and I just name blue every time, then
Yeah.
it's unblockable at that point. Protection gives it unblockable, hexproof from that color basically, indestructible from that color.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like all around kind of encompasses everything.
So to kind of argue against it,
Yep.
it's definitely powerful. But it seems like it's either very specific, and when I say that I mean our card will say, like Animar says, protection from white and black.
Yeah,
So it's very specific, so if you're playing a red deck, it doesn't matter.
sure.
Or it doesn't last very long. Circle of protections, you
Yep.
sack it, they're gone.
You don't sack those.
You don't.
You have to pay 1. So, but it's till end of
yeah,
turn. So
until
same-
end of turn.
same
That's
type
what I
of
mean.
thing.
But it seems like they're very, short.
Short term. I understand. Yeah, I can see that.
Or specific.
Or specific. Yeah. Now sometimes there's creatures that have protection from creatures, which means that they can't be blocked or targeted with anything that a creature has to do. Progenitus is that 10-drop 11/11, and it has protection from everything.
Right.
So nothing whatsoever can touch Progenitus. So I like that it's kind of short term because that means it's going to be probably at instant speed till end of turn, which makes it more reactionary, which I prefer in something like a hexproof or a protection, because then you waste an opponent's spell. If you try to lightning bolt my Kaikar and I give it protection, then you've wasted your lightning bolt.
Right.
It's out of your hand. But if it just has protection stapled on it, you're not even going to try.
Okay.
So I see what you're saying in that when it's on the creature, when it's on a permanent, it is restricting or specific, like you said, but being able to react to an opponent's spell makes it more, bumps it up a little for me.
Okay. So in the interest of time, maybe we should go on to another.
Please do. You want to say one of yours?
Yeah. So Trample is really cool because, like we were saying before, if a creature is a 1/1 and you have a 20/20 creature, they can just block it and nothing happens. But if you have Trample, then you're dealing 19 damage to them.
Yeah.
It's just it gives you more of a, you want to swing more because you can get through more often.
I like that. It incentivizes you to swing.
Right. Plus, it makes your opponent double block sometimes, so you can kill more than one creature.
Nice. Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Sometimes it makes your opponent not block at all.
Right.
If I have a creature with 2 toughness, but you're swinging in with 5 power and trample, it's not worth it for me to
lose the creatures.
Yeah, lose the creatures and 3 life when I could just lose 5 life and keep the creature.
Right.
So similar to Death Touch, it's kind of
a little bit of a deterrent.
I guess it kind of prevents or restricts what your opponent is going to do.
Yeah.
Because it's there. Cool. Anything else you want to say about Trample?
No, I think we're on the same page.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so maybe Trample could go in there.
I said flying on a whim here, but it's definitely very powerful. especially when your opponent doesn't have flying, because it's pretty much unblockable. But it's definitely not more powerful than like Death Touch and Indestructible.
Okay.
Is it more?
see that.
It's not more powerful than Trample, I don't think.
Flying?
Yeah, but I think it depends on the circumstance.
Yeah.
Because you could have a 1/1 flyer, and then in that case, a 5/5 with Trample is more powerful.
Right.
But then they could have a blocker, so it's not more powerful. It's hard to say.
Right. With flying, your opponent has to have a specific ability to be able to block it, either flying or reach.
Right.
But with Trample, you just have to have creatures to be able to block it.
That's true.
So there is more evasion with flying.
Right.
If you could put them together, flying and Trample is one of the most perfect combos you can have.
Yeah.
But I think, honestly, I would lean more towards flying than Trample. But now let me present the other side. There's cards like Crushing Vines or what's that one called? Can't remember. But cards that specifically plummet, cards that specifically destroy creatures with flying.
Yeah.
I mean, they're mainly in green because green doesn't have a lot of flying.
Right.
So it needs a way to deal with them. But there are cards that specifically target flyers, where there are not cards that specifically target tramplers.
Okay.
I guess we don't have to necessarily compare these two keywords, but it seems like that's the way we're going. If we're trying to find a top 5 list, then yeah, let's get really nitty gritty.
So maybe we should start. Weeding some out.
Yeah.
So we have Indestructible and Death Touch. We agreed on, so those
Definites.
were definites. We both agreed on Trample, right?
For now.
But now you're changing on me. Wasn't there another one we agreed on?
Well, I said protection. I
Protection.
don't know how you feel about that.
I think we need to come back to protection.
Sure.
So what were your other two?
Let's keep going. I said vigilance. I don't think
Vigilance.
vigilance is going to make it into the top, but let me give my explanation. Currently, I'm building a Dragon Lord Ojutai deck. I found it in my binder, and I decided for this deck, I'm actually really excited about it. I'm going to build it all with cards that I've never played before. Every card, except for non-basic lands, has to be a card I've never played.
That's really cool.
It's very cool, and it's introducing me to like 63 more cards, 63 more cards that I've never played before. So,
wow.
Dragon Lord Ojutai is a 5/4 flyer, 5/4, 6/4, big flyer that has hexproof as long as it's untapped. So I know this is a very specific example, but in this case, in that deck, I'm trying to find ways to give it vigilance so that it will never be tapped.
Okay.
Because that's what vigilance does. You don't have to tap it when you attack. Vigilance allows you to keep an attacker as a blocker as well, which I find is super important sometimes. If you were to give Tuvasa vigilance, sometimes you have, and it always is a blocker. When you have a Voltron creature that has vigilance, it's like, all right, I'm just going to swing at you for 14 damage. Now I have 14 power to block with as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's good for you in that you are able to block, and it's bad for your opponents in that you have a big blocker.
Okay.
So it's no more powerful than Indestructible, Death Touch, any of these things we've talked about, but I think it has its value, and I needed to say that.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we can scratch that one off, but vigilance holds a place in my heart.
Let's pick two of them right now. Let's say flying and protection.
Mm-hmm.
Which would you rather have on a creature?
On the creature?
Yeah.
Flying.
Flying. So should we say protection's out?
No.
No? Okay.
Which would you rather have on an instant? Target creature gets flying, or target creature gets protection from a color until end of turn?
Until end of turn, protection.
Both of them. Yeah, both of them are till end of turn.
Yeah.
Right. So like flying wins when it's on the battlefield, but protection would take precedence when it's a spell in your hand.
Okay.
So I don't think it's just going to be that easy.
So vigilance is gone.
Vigilance is gone. I think let's come up with an overarching question that we have to answer. That being, which of these keywords is going to help you win the game the fastest? What's going to get you there quicker than the other ones would? Do you think that's a fair question?
Kind of. Because Death Touch isn't really like win condition.
Mm-hmm.
It's more protection and deterrent.
Yeah, I guess.
Indestructible can be both.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of an unfair way to compare
I guess.
each
Okay.
of them.
Yeah, because not all of these abilities are about combat damage.
Right.
I can see that.
Okay.
So,
Can you read what we have here?
yeah, so far in our final, we have
Yeah.
Indestructible and Death Touch.
Right.
Okay, so you said Trample, Flying, and Hexproof were your others. I said Vigilance, which is gone, Double Strike, and Protection. So we still have one left to talk about each. Yours is Hexproof and mine is Double Strike.
Okay.
Anything you want to say?
Should we group them up kind of and see which is better? Like,
Not yet. We haven't
Not
talked
yet.
about these two yet by themselves.
which ones?
Double
Hexproof
Strike and Hexproof.
Okay. Hexproof is incredible because you can... going back to Tuvasa, I have Alexi's Cloak in there, and I probably shouldn't because it's a Voltron strategy.
What does Alexi's Cloak give it?
Shroud.
Yeah.
So it's tough because if I play Alexi's Cloak on it so you can't target it, then I can no longer put enchantments on it. So it's better than Shroud in that way. Hexproof, you can still target it, but your opponents can't. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. It's just the perfect kind of protection.
I have to disagree.
Other than protection.
Other than protection. Now, let's say you
But
have...
Hexproof is, I don't want to say forever, but until removed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. Let me offer you a scenario.
Go ahead.
You're playing Tuvasa. Tuvasa has Hexproof, and it has Flying and Death Touch and all these different things.
Yeah.
I cast Wrath of God. Destroy all creatures. Your Hexproof
Okay.
doesn't matter at that point. Board
That
wipes
is
just
true.
totally remove the need for Hexproof. It's only about single target removal.
But protection would save it.
But protection would save it.
Yeah, okay.
Just a thought.
There's a place for both.
Absolutely. And we should make that disclaimer. Like, we are not saying you should only play these 5 keywords or whatever. We're trying to see what actually has the most value, right?
And we're struggling because we didn't come into this with a strong opinion.
Yeah.
Because we're not supposed to. That's the whole idea of the show.
Yeah.
But I did not think it would be this difficult.
I didn't either.
I don't know where to go from here.
All right. Well, let me present Double Strike.
Okay.
We've kind of said the basics of it in first strike damage, then regular damage.
Right.
I love using Double Strikers as blockers
Yeah.
because then your opponent's like, all right, I'm not going to swing at your 2/2 Double Striker when you can hit me and kill my creature right away. So
Right.
similar to Death Touch, it is a little bit of a deterrent. Now, if you had a creature with Double Strike and Death Touch, or even First Strike and Death Touch, like Glissa the Trader, that is a winning combo right there.
Yeah.
Because it deals damage to your creature before you can even touch it, so your creature dies before it deals any damage back.
Right.
Now, that is a combination of 2 keywords. Now, Double Strike lets your creature hit for double its power also.
Right.
So I'm trying to build a Lord of Tressorhorn deck, and that's a 10-4 creature. So if
Yeah.
I can give it Double Strike and maybe even pump up its power 1 more, I can hit you for 22 damage on 1 attack.
Right.
And that's commander damage, and that's dead. So, like, in
And
some...
that's unfair. That's rude.
It kind of is unfair with that card.
Yeah.
But it makes your creature bigger, or I guess it makes it more powerful without actually pumping up its power. Think
Right.
of the card Smite the Monstrous as an instant that destroys a creature with power 4 or greater.
Yeah.
But if you have a 3/3 Double Striker, you still technically have 3 power, but 6 damage that you can deal.
Right.
So that card wouldn't be destroyed by that. I know it's very niche. I feel like I'm not presenting a great case for it.
It's
So
definitely a strong keyword, but I don't think it deserves to be in the
give
list.
it the kibosh.
Yeah.
Goodbye. All right. Double Strike is out. So we are left with all 3 of yours still. We've removed 2 of mine, so you need to let up a little bit. Indestructible, Death Touch, we've agreed on. We know those. You still have Trample, Flying, and Hexproof, and I have Protection. Can you give me one?
Maybe Trample.
You think we should remove Trample to put in Protection?
You've made a strong case for protection.
Now let's compare Trample to the other 2.
Flying and
flying, and hexproof.
Okay.
So
Well, so I don't want to replace hexproof with protection because you'd use them at different times for different reasons. You know what I mean?
I'm going to disagree.
Really, because I would put hexproof, I don't know, because protection, like I said, is so short sometimes. Like you were saying, give it protection until end of turn.
Right.
That's once. The next turn, they cast a spell that targets it.
There's spells that give a creature hexproof till end of turn.
That's true.
There's there's creatures that have protection on them always.
There's creatures that have protection on them, but can you give them protection always?
With the spells, yeah. It's like the same with hexproof. You'd have to cast the spell to give it hexproof if it doesn't already have it.
Right, but I'm saying it stays on the creature. It's not until end of turn. Sometimes.
Not very frequently. You'd have to have an enchantment or an artifact or an equipment that gives it hexproof for it to
That's
stay.
what I'm trying to say.
Oh, you didn't say that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. So you're saying that, well, what about a card like Mother of Runes, which taps to give a creature protection from a color until end of turn?
Okay, I
that stays
suppose.
on the battlefield and can be used in response.
What are you proposing right now?
That protection is better than hexproof.
Okay.
And I think I'll stand by that.
I will give it to you.
Yes! Okay, sweet.
Okay. But are we kicking hexproof out of the list? Does flying and trample trump?
At this point, if we were to take out trample for protection, we have 3 keywords in here that basically protect your creature. Indestructible, hexproof, and protection. That seems like too many to be in our top 5.
Okay.
You know, because I know that they all don't say the same thing, but in this grand scheme of things, they kind of do.
Okay.
And that they protect your creature, whereas like Death Touch, Trample, Flying, or Trample and Flying are more about dealing damage to your opponent. Those other 3 keywords are about protecting the creature.
Yeah.
So maybe if that were the case and we were to keep Indestructible, Hexproof, and Protection, we think that keeping your creature safe is more integral to your play than it is to deal damage to your opponents.
Right.
So that's a bigger question. What do you
Right.
think is most important? Is it more important to deal damage to your opponents, or would you rather keep your creatures safe?
I think I'd rather take 4 turns to kill you with my creature than to take 2 turns and not be protected. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Can you
'Cause
elaborate?
If I can have 4 turns where my creature has protection or it has hexproof, where I know it's safe, indestructible, I'd rather take 4 turns to kill you with a smaller power than pumping it up to kill you in
So yes,
2
you are
turns.
saying that protection is
I believe so.
more valuable.
I think so.
I can definitely see that because not only, at least in the terms of protection or indestructible, not only can it potentially get through and not die, it can keep itself safe.
Right.
So while flying and trample would deal the damage to your opponents, they don't give you any sort of protection.
Right.
Whereas these other 3 do.
And you could do a lot of damage with your 1 Voltron creature, and then it's gone the next turn.
Yep.
And then what do you do there? You know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't know.
So board state might be more important than life total.
Okay.
Can we make that huge blanket statement?
Yeah, I think so.
I think I would agree with that. Not
Yeah.
board presence. I'm not talking about a huge board of like 18 tokens and artifacts, enchantments. I mean, keeping your board as is, the state that it's in, not the amount of things you have, is more important than it is to deal an extra 3 or 4 damage to my opponent.
Right.
Especially in a game like Commander, where there's 4 players.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of my turn, I have 2 other opponents that can deal damage to you.
Right.
You know, so there's 3 people going against 1 person in a way. So there's more people that can get that life total down,
Right.
but they're not going to help me build my board state.
That's true.
So I do agree with you where in Commander, I think it's important to maintain your board state, have these protective abilities than it is to deal that little bit of extra damage with trample
Right.
or get over your creatures with a flyer.
I think we've diverted, and I think we should go back.
Yeah, well, I think it was important.
It was important.
So where do we stand?
So we have to come up with a list, top 5.
Can we say that this won't be in like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 order?
Okay.
Just a collection of 5?
Sure.
I think that's going to be way too tough to actually
Well, then we're
order.
done, right? We have 5?
I guess if we're sticking with Indestructible, Death Touch, well, no, we have 6. Indestructible, Death Touch, Trample, Flying, Hexproof, and Protection.
We got rid of Hexproof.
We did. Okay.
Right?
Bye. Great. Okay. That's a good list.
That is a good list.
So then...
Can we tack all those onto one creature?
I was just going to say that. Imagine if there's a commander that has Indestructible, Death Touch, Trample, Flying, and Protection from...
Everything?
Well, that's basically...
Whatever it's
Progenitus,
called.
yeah. So now, maybe to wrap up, I'm not sure, what would be the difference between Protection and Indestructible? I know that there is an obvious difference,
Right.
but like at their essence, are they kind of the same?
They're similar.
They're similar.
But Indestructible, you can get around it with exiling.
Yes.
But Protection, you can't. You can't exile.
Right.
So, is Protection better than Indestructible?
Does Protection have any downsides? I guess Protection is a really large term because most of the time it's either protection from a specific color or protection from a permanent type.
Right. And that's why I was saying earlier it's a little bit restricting sometimes.
Yeah.
But
I like that it gives you the choice. You can pick the color.
yeah.
Like in Emerge Unscathed or with Mother of Runes. But like you were saying with Animar, where it's only black and white, then you can't really do anything about it.
Right.
So maybe the keywords protection from the color of your choice until end of turn is more powerful than...
Indestructible.
Yeah, I guess. I'd have to say that.
Okay. I don't want to add more wood to the fire because we've been talking a long time, but Indestructible stays on
Yep.
for a long time.
It can. Because there's ways to give creatures Indestructible till end of turn.
There are ways to do that, but I feel like every time I've had Indestructible, it was just tacked on the creature.
Yeah, there's a wall that gives itself Indestructible if you pay for it.
Yeah.
Heroic Intervention gives your creatures hexproof and Indestructible till end of turn. So like I have seen it just until end of turn. All of these keywords are able to be put on an instant and given until end of turn. You know, Mighty Leap gives a creature flying until end of turn, and of course I can't think of anything that gives Trample till end of turn, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't think that we're going to come to a finer point than what we have.
I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that can be said, but we're just going to talk in circles if we do.
We're beating it. You know, it's just like there's not much more to say.
We are. All right, so then I think with that, we should call it to a close.
Yeah.
Yeah? So let's go over our final list.
Okay.
In no particular order, we have Indestructible, Protection, Flying, Death Touch, and Trample.
Yes.
Is that correct? Indestructible, Death Touch, Flying, Trample, Protection. Okay.
Okay.
That's a great list.
Horsemanship.
Horsemanship. I'm sure that viewers at home are going to be screaming at their screens saying, you forgot this one. Or, come on, of course haste is more valuable than Indestructible. Whatever your thoughts are, be sure to put them in the comments below so that we can get to know them. They might influence our decision in a future topic.
Right.
You know, whatever you say has value to us, so we'd love to hear it. If you can think of a keyword that we missed, something we didn't talk about enough, something that should be in our top 5 list, please let us know. Reach out to us at themanadorksmtg.com. You can tell them our Instagram.
Instagram username?
Yes, please.
At themanadorksmtg.
Where else can they find us?
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. TikTok is only the Manadorks.
Right. If you head over to our website, you can find our Patreon page. Our patrons get exclusive perks, just like always. We love our patrons. We send them tokens. They get early access to our shows, and they're part of our family. So we're happy to have them as our little dorks. So please join the dork family and find our Patreon in our website, The Manadorks MTG. Anything else to add, Nick?
I don't think so.
All right, y'all. Thanks for joining us on Thought Scour, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Thought Scour,